Welcome to Chelsea. In this first video we're going to look at the big show gardens and some of the small show gardens. We've been building up our stand just opposite here, and so we've been watching the build over the last 5 days or so. It's designed by Tom Hoblin, who's done lots of gardens here, and the sponsor is Hospice UK. It's one that's funded by Project Giving Back. And what I found fascinating during the build-up was Tom said the walls caused him a bit of angst. So he worked on the render, and as you see, he started off with a deep pigment and he's graded it as he's gone up. And he worked with a render specialist and developed that. And he was a little bit worried when it went on without the planting, because it did look very strong, very in your face. But with any garden, you do a render and it does fade a bit. And also when the plants come in to soften it, it changes the whole dynamics of it totally. And I think it actually works quite well. One thing that everybody was remarking on was, well, the stone walling. So the whole thing of the garden was based on an olive house. And that is in little compartments. So they've made this garden divided up into smaller compartments. And I think that makes it work very well. The walling they've done with a sort of rubble walling with no coping, because they want it to look quite informal. And I love the way he's put the big sort of boulders set into the walling, so it looks like it is built on a sort of stony hillside, and they've incorporated those lovely rocks within it. The benches were fascinating. The designer, Will Aston up below, because I've forgotten his name, or the guy who made them. And he actually, lots of forklifts going by all the time, apologies for that. And he actually has a little steam unit. I think it was in his basement. He made a steam unit, and then he got the oak, which wasn't quite green oak, but sort of partially dried, and he bent them by hand. And he made these amazing benches, which really are a statement of the whole garden. Planting is superb, I think very evocative of a Mediterranean garden. Beautiful lupins, some beautiful delphiniums, I think, here, which he did from seed, and the pine tree, Pinus pineae. So that's a stone pine, another big noisy machine. The stone pine, it is beautiful, very evocative of the Mediterranean, getting quite popular in England now. And if you grow them in England, I think it's about 10 years, you can get crops of something like 50 pounds of pine nuts a year. So I think I should put some in. I won't be able to eat the pine nuts, but maybe by people who have the house after can. The pots were made by Andy Sturgeon's wife. Andy Sturgeon, famous designer, done lots of great gardens here. And she's a ceramicist, I think, but she's actually developed this technique by she mixes them and makes them herself. And she had quite a few runs to get them as they are, but I think they're really lovely. So come and have a look at other bits of the garden from another angle. So, apologies, Andy Sturgeon's wife is called Thea, who made the lovely pots. She's had lots of trial ones. I've just spoken to her brother, and she basically made up her own mixture with a bit of lime, cement, and this one is made into a water bowl. The other thing, if you note, these gardens, they are more like theatre, I think, than gardens to live in generally. And if you see how they've strewn the pine needles on the floor just to make it look really authentic. And so that, I think, is a lovely touch. And basically, I think this is one of the best of the show gardens this year. There's sort of 3 which I think are really good, and this is definitely one of them. I like his timber fence there, which is very simple, easy to copy. And when they've done the fencing posts around the garden, to keep the punters off, they've used the same timber, so it all ties in nicely together. But it's just a lovely restful garden. I wish the sun was on it, because any garden, however brilliant, looks fantastic with the sun on it. This, for me, is a standout garden. It's designed by Joe Thompson, who said, "I'm never doing another Chelsea," a few years back. But the Glasshouse UK, which is an organisation that basically tries to get women prisoners back to work afterwards in horticulture. And it's been a phenomenal success. I think the normal reoffending rate for women in prisons is something like 57%. And when they've been through the Glasshouse scheme, which puts them in work towards the end of the sentence and mentors them, it's got down to 0. And I think that is a phenomenal, a real success. So it's a fabulous charity. Now, Jo is always known for her really stunning planting. And you can see here, she's used a lot of shrub roses. One of my favourites is Wild Rover, which I didn't actually know before. But it is a lovely, good repeat flowering rose with lots of yellow stamens in the centre and very insect friendly. The other rose she's used, which is one of my favourites, Emma Bridgewater, which is a bit like Mutabilis because it changes colour from a sort of yellow to a red to a coppery colour. The stonework I think is lovely. This is a new twist on crazy paving. Well, maybe not new twist, but it's beautiful York stone. And when crazy paving is often laid with very sharp edges because they use broken slabs. But here they've got the broken slabs and they've tumbled them. So they look more river worn, more natural. They've laid them with a lovely big joint. And in between the joint, they've studied a lot of them with planting. The rill just runs all the way through the garden. And then the goes to a little building at the end. And the whole point of that building is the doors open from very different angles. So you can have it partially open, partially shut. You can direct the gaze towards different parts of the garden. So it's a very clever building design, I think. Within the planting, you've got some other fabulous specimens. You've got quite a few umbelliferas, which are one of my favourites, and Jo was really good. She had some spare and she gave them to us, another charity, Horatio's Garden, to put on our stand because we were running a little bit short of plants. So those are the valerian at the back against the hedge, which looks stunning. These are Dorcas, the wild carrot. Some of them have a lovely purpley shade as well. Baptisia, this is a lovely Baptisia, lovely beautiful purple shade. It is a bit of a problem to grow. It's not the easiest plant, none of the Baptisias are, but this one is just perfection here today. Multi-stemmed cherries she's got, and she's got a lovely river birch, multi-stem river birch with a sort of more cinnamony type bark, and it likes slightly moist conditions. We've used that on another Horatio's Garden and I love it. And then punctuating these lovely colours, we've got these big blobs of purple beech. And I think they're most effective. Iris is popping up. I mean, you could just stand and look at this planting for hours. So if you're coming to the show, try and do that. Astrantias, foxgloves, all sort of muddled through, mixed through to create a really dreamy concoction, I reckon. Anyway, I think this is my all-time top garden this year. And I'm so glad she changed her mind and came back. So I'm with Nigel Dunnett, Professor Nigel Dunnett, who's done a lot of gardens here.
I have, but it's been 8 years since I did my last one.
Oh, and what pulled you back?
I think it's in your system and the chance to try something different, and I really wanted to do something different this time.
Ah, right. So just explain, who are the sponsors here?
Well, it's a Project Giving Back funded garden, and our charity partners are Horticultural Arts, which is a contemporary arts centre based in Arbroath on the east coast of Scotland. And they support young artists and developing artists to develop their careers. Right,
and so it's a Juni landscape where it's going to.
It's taken inspiration from the landscape the hospital field is based upon.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to copy a Scottish sand dune.
No, no, I haven't seen one like that.
With the link with hospital, it's reimagining it through the eyes of an artist or a sculptor. So it's very abstract, but it's very topographical. So we've got the dunes and then valleys, a little pool, and that gives us so many different microclimates and aspects, and wet and dry to play around with the planting.
But just to explain to anyone who's watching that hasn't heard of your career has been in horticultural, and how would you explain it?
Well, I would say
aspect?
horticultural ecology.
Horticultural ecology,
sort of
right.
taking ecological principles, thinking about more sustainable approaches to making gardens, particularly, I hope, creating beautiful planting that's also rich for biodiversity and sustainable.
And you were instrumental in developing the pictorial meadows.
Yes, so I founded that, yes.
Yeah, founded that, the wildflower seeds and the turfs, which we've used on our stand, Horatio's Garden, this year. So these sand dunes, you've got ribs of timber, is it, or metal running through?
It's timber, but it's been painted with paint containing iron filings and then treated so it rusts. And it's so many people are calling this steel or metal.
But it's
of course,
not.
it's a fraction of the cost,
Yes.
much more sustainable as well.
Yeah. But how long will that last, the
Well,
timber? It's ply, is it marine ply or something?
No, it's like we call it a pickled MDF.
Pickled
Yeah,
MDF.
it's been treated with, well, I don't know the technical details. It has a 50-year lifespan in the air, but if buried or underwater, it's got a 25-year lifespan.
Oh, I've never
So this
used
is really
that.
durable.
Yeah, so, and is it cheap? I bet it's not.
It's not that cheap, but then it has that really long lifespan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've mounded these with the soil from the garden, presumably.
So underneath here is excavated soil,
Yeah.
and then we have about 200 millimetre, sort of 8 or 9 inch layer of sand on top of that. And these ribs allow us to really pack it in
Yes.
tight and hold the whole thing together.
Yeah. Gosh, it looks most effective. I think the thing that I found really stand out is the pool, or the way it blends into the pool, surrounded by the ribs. And you've got a liner, it's not butyl,
It's
is it?
clay, it's puddle
it's
clay.
puddle clay.
Yes. It's a completely no plastic garden.
Ah,
And
so you literally brought in how much clay to puddle
it's
it?
about 3 or 4 inches, 10 centimetres.
Yes.
It's for show. Normally I think you'd want deeper than that, about 8 inches.
Yeah.
And
then you ram it in, water it.
It's shaped, watered, rammed in.
And you were watching all this,
Oh yes,
directing
and
it.
then we have
yes.
a layer of sand over the top. It's just beautiful clear water. And the planting around it is lusher and greener than the more sort of dry and arid slopes as well.
Because the sand is wicking it all the way
It
up.
is. Theoretically, this is a north-facing bowl as well, so we can have a little bit more lushness.
I like the benches. They're very quirky, aren't they? Are they comfortable to sit on?
They're both sittable on, but also features.
Yes, you would get sort of cracks in your bottom if you sat on them for too long. And the building is obviously fabulous because it all blends in very nicely. Wrigley tin, anything special there that I should note?
Well, it's a very well insulated building. It's got British hemp insulation, and even on the hottest days it's beautifully cool inside.
Because corrugated tin is a nightmare.
Yeah, but then it's got
with
thick,
no insulation.
thick insulation.
I see.
Designed for artists to work in remote locations like in the forest, to be just dropped down for someone to work really immersed in nature, and then it can be taken away again. So it's a portable building.
I see. Oh, that's nice. You could use Wrigley tin for any building if you insulate it.
Yes,
can't you?
exactly.
It's a very long-lasting structure.
Yes.
And it is now, whereas in the olden days people thought of it as a sort of scrap feature. Now it's sort of become quite trendy and it's quite aesthetically beautiful, isn't it, really? No, it's a fantastic garden. I'm sure you'll get a gold, if not best in show. I love the way you've twisted the brick path through. Where did you get your pavers from?
London Stone, they're Chelmer clay pavers.
Yeah.
You see what we just switched on, which is what I call an invisible rill.
Ah.
So the paving just so gently undulates to channel water from the building into the pool, and we're just showing that.
Ah.
But then when it's dry, you don't even know it's there, so you can walk over it and use it. But in wet weather, it just channels it.
Clever. That is a lovely touch, isn't it? Really nice. I've never seen that before.
No, I don't think it's been done before.
There's another garden which uses the water from a roof and it splurges into the pool every so often. But that is really gentle, isn't it? Lovely. Yeah. Well done, fabulous. You must be very pleased.
We're so pleased. We had great fun doing it as well.
Yeah,
it's been
because
enjoyable.
the build was sunny.
Yes.
Wasn't it? It's such a change to have a sunny build. you say that, but you didn't have nightmares about things going over your valerian or anything like that? It didn't worry you?
Of course.
Yeah,
of course.
you've always got nightmares.
I mean, as
It's
it's
a
turned
nice
out,
build.
it's perfect.
Yes.
But we did worry it was going to peak too soon.
Yeah, because if you have a wet build-up and the rain and the wind, I remember we did a tropical garden one year and it was the windiest, rainiest ever, and the sort of things were bashed to death beforehand. And the marquee, I think it even blew as it was then, blew the marquee collapse because it was such a storm, and a load of delphiniums bit the dust.
There is a certain amount of luck involved. I mean, the weather this year has allowed us to tell a very good story about the planting and the whole garden.
Yeah,
but it could have been completely different.
Yeah, you've been quite dramatic with your heights. That top of that must be what, 2 metres high or more?
Just over 2 metres.
Just over
yes.
2. That is drama, isn't it?
Well, it's a show garden.
Yeah, but always I think people are scared of playing with levels in gardens. They don't know how to do it. But I think that shows you how much it makes the garden look bigger. Don't you
does,
think?
and I do
Massively
think
bigger.
we tend to think of gardens as always being two-dimensional,
Yeah.
don't we, as being flat, but even just a little bit of variation just gives you so many more conditions to play
Yeah,
with.
no, I think that's seriously clever. Lovely, well done,
Okay,
good luck.
thank you.
So the Newt are the sponsors of the whole show, and this is their last year. And this garden they've done, it's not going to be judged. People can walk through it, which is always more difficult to design a garden to walk through. And my God, it really is amazing. There are stones, some of these stones are billions of years old. And the whole point of the Karoo succulent garden is that they have a hotel called Babelstoren in South Africa. And this is all about that, the geology, the rocks, the types of rocks, they're volcanic, some of them are sedimentary, metamorphic, amazing vegetation. I mean, fancy bringing these in. So it is quite a stunner, and people will see plants that they have never seen before. So well done for sponsoring Chelsea the Newt, they've done a wonderful job. Well done for creating this garden, and of course they've got their hotel down in Somerset. Hi Baz, it's lovely to see you on your garden, looking very relieved, I have to say.
Yeah, I am.
So you designed this garden, which
Yes.
is pretty complicated, isn't it?
It
In
is.
its technology and everything. So first of all, tell me about the thing that everyone's been talking about, the concrete
So,
structure.
yeah, so when we set out with the sort of early stages of the design, I wanted to have, I love the sort of juxtaposition between the natural and the man-made.
Yes.
You know, craft and sort of highly non-man-made. Those things, I kind of really like that space. So when we got the opportunity to introduce the 3D printing into this scheme.
So 3D printed concrete.
Yes, the 3D
Yes.
printed wall sections that run around the arch and across the back.
Explain how they are formed, because people won't know what you
So
mean.
it's a robot that kind of that came in on site, and it sort of tracked in there. It's got a spout, and it's a mortar-based product that dries or cures very quickly, and
So the robot extrudes.
yes, it extrudes it out. So if you imagine sort of a pencil on a piece of paper and you can't take it off,
Yes.
that's kind of how the robot works. So it's almost like a spiral.
So it goes.
Yes.
And how long did it take to form, say, that first column, the
Well,
robot?
actually, those two columns are really quick. They're about 7 minutes each.
Whoa!
So
Well,
yeah,
so the robot came in, shoom,
Yeah.
7 minutes a column.
yes,
Oh my God.
yeah. And the back walls took a little bit longer because they're bigger.
Yes.
And so the big one was about 70 minutes, and the corner one was about 55 minutes.
So how long would it take to build a house?
They can do a whole house in a day.
Whoa.
Yeah, with the big one. I mean, the one we had is a little mobile one. They have the bigger sort of industrial ones. They use them a lot in the Far East at the moment, in the sort of Midwest as well in America.
Oh, wow.
Arizona, they're doing lots of experiments with them because they're cavities. You have great kind of thermal insulation, but from either heat or cold. So
Yeah.
as they're being printed up, you can put things into the cavities. So insulation, you can put all your services in. So it is a very quick way of building.
Wow.
I don't think it's I don't think it's a replacement. I think it's an alternative, and I think that's what we wanted to show here.
Right. So the other things that grabbed me
Yes.
were these huge cantilever beams,
Yes.
and these are, what did you say, 400 deep or something? By
They're 280 by 200.
280
so
by
we've
so they are big. Aren't
they're big.
I love big.
They weigh
Yeah.
they weigh a bit. They're made of Douglas fir, which
Yes.
has sort of good. It's very sort of high and sappy, so it
Yes.
keeps it nice and waterproof.
Yeah.
And I got the idea actually from we visited a watermill I say years ago, a few months ago, and they still had water troughs with the water wheel that had been made over 200 years ago, and they were still using them. And
So those are troughs, aren't
They
they?
are
They're
troughs,
not
yeah.
beams. So
Yes.
they, when it rains,
Yes.
they fill with water.
they capture water.
Explain what happens.
So they fill with water. The water, so they're on a slight angle down. So the water runs to this end, falls out the spout into the main pond, which is like a plunge pool or a catchment pond, and then it's designed to flood down into the front zone here. So you're directing water away from the bits of the garden that you want to protect, and you take it to the place where you want it to go, and then we can collect it. So we have a full rainwater harvesting system within the garden. So we could then
Wow.
use it at a later date, or I mean we're actually using it just to keep the cycle going, but we could store water there, and you could use it for irrigation, or as I said, pumping it away for something else if you wanted to. So it's or you could I mean originally the idea was that you would just let it naturally drain away back
Yeah.
into the water table. So
But it always amazes me, if you go to France, lots of gardens have underground catchment tanks.
yes,
In the UK, it's almost unheard of, but
No.
we're going to have to change.
we are,
aren't we?
and actually a lot of the inspiration for the garden came from sort of southern France, northern Spain, and some of the planting comes from there. We've got a couple of varieties that are kind of native to there. We've got little semi-aquilegias down there that grow in Aquitaine. We've got French tarragon, which we've used as a kind of a filler over there, which
Best
grows
ever
yeah, which
for
is lovely.
Béarnaise sauce.
Absolutely.
Yes.
There's a Ditulostemma, which is a wildflower, which again likes it's the foothills of the Pyrenees. So, and the idea behind that was that over the the garden's set 25 years in the future. So, as sort of climate change kicks in and we get a rise in temperature, we wanted plants that were resilient to more extreme weather events, so more drought, more flood.
Yeah. No, I think it's fantastic. But so when that water started, when we were talking before, that's when they're full, the troughs are
Yes.
full, and then it crashed down, and then it stops.
Then it cuts off, and the water just goes back to the ambient mode,
Right.
which is we have the 3 water spouts at the back and a kind of a vanishing point down there, and then the water drains away from the flood zone and then does it all again about half an hour later.
It's brilliant. Who's sponsoring this?
This is Killick & Co.
Who are?
Wealth Management.
Oh right.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And where's it going?
This is going to Centre Points in Camden. It's a young man's shelter, 16 to 20-year-olds.
Lovely. What I like particularly is the way you worked in the. Is it Purbeck stone?
It is Purbeck stone, yes.
Into the archway.
Yeah.
I think if it had been all concrete, I think it would have been too much.
It would,
perhaps.
I agree, yes, I agree.
But I thought that was a lovely, clever touch.
Thank you.
And your standout plants?
Well, the Crataegus is getting a lot of attention.
Yeah.
But it's about to flush out fully.
It's not prunifolia, is it?
No, it's Lavellii.
Lavellia.
Yes.
This is one I use a lot.
It's,
Actually. I
it-
should have
it's-
recognised it.
No, it is.
Cross Lavellia,
Yes.
isn't it? Crataegus cross Lavellia.
It is.
And it's known as another name as.
I do know. I've forgotten it.
I've forgotten it as well,
The,
but it's
the
got another
RHS tree guy came around and said it earlier on. I said, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, but it's something going to see like Crawford or something. But it's I think it's standards as well, lightly shaped.
Yes.
And it looks good in many formats, doesn't it?
It does. I love this one because of the openness. It felt a little bit wilder, but also from a practical point, it allowed you to be able to see through it into the
Yeah.
garden from that corner.
Yeah.
So, but it's a beautiful specimen.
No, it's a stunning garden. You've done an amazing job. It's got a great message. Is the furniture out yet?
It is. We've got
Oh,
some
lovely.
furniture.
Great. We'll
so
go and film that
go
bit now
film that,
then.
okay.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much for your time.
no problem at all.
I hope you get a very good medal. So I find this one of the most inspiring gardens because of the clever touches within it, despite the fact that it looks beautiful. So you are Annette Giordano, have I pronounced that right?
Giardina.
Giardino, not right. And tell me tell me the exciting thing about this, one of the exciting things, is a little back, lovely another JCB, is the little black boxes which you've got on the trees,
Yep.
which monitors them and feeds back to the computer and tells you what's wrong with them, what you need to do if you do. Have I explained that correctly?
Yeah, it's a really good explanation. So what we've done in the garden is we've embedded about 11 different kinds of sensors, one of which is on the trees.
Yes.
And those sensors feed back into a computer system that tells you what's going on in the garden. So everything from sensors in the stream to see if the water's clean, to sensors in the trees so that you can actually talk to the trees, but also you can have the tree tell you how it's feeling. And then we also have things like little cameras to capture the pollinators and things like that. We have a hookup to the Met office so we can tell the weather, and we can look at how the weather is going to affect the trees. So at the heart of this, what we're trying to do is make it easier for urban trees to thrive. And the concept,
just urban trees? If I had a suburban garden with
well, you could have
problems?
a suburban garden that you could use it in as well. But the intention of it was that for us, urban trees are one of the things that this country's lacking. And it's actually a significant problem because we need more tree cover, but also 50% of urban trees die within the first 10 years of their planting. And so if we want to increase our tree cover, we need to increase the success rate of those urban trees. And quite often the reason they die is because they're either planted in the wrong place, or they're not fed properly, or they're not watered properly. And if you think about this, just the sheer mass of a council trying to go around and like water every tree, right? So the idea behind this technology is it can tell the gardener, it can tell the horticulturalist what the tree needs. And then they can address that tree's needs without having to worry about the other 90 trees that are perfectly fine and tickety-boo. So the idea behind it is the tech is there to help the people keep the trees more healthy. And yes, in an ideal world, you could have it in your suburban garden as well. And when we chose the sensors we chose for the trees, we specifically chose ones that, one, were very as non-invasive as possible.
Yes, they are,
and
so discreet.
And two, very small, and three, affordable. So you could plug a sensor like this into your home tree, and you could connect up to the service once we get it up and running. So you could use it in a home garden, but the idea behind it was initially how could we help solve the plight of urban trees? But the tech has huge potential to go into other places and do more with it.
So when we've planted trees in city centres and things, and we planted big mature trees because you often have to, we've had people coming with chainsaws, vandals, in the middle of the night and zipping them down. And so could you do one for that?
I don't know. I mean, technically you could, because one of the things that this sensor does is tells you the tree's lean and if it's at a healthy lean.
So you could catch them at it.
So if the tree all of a sudden started leaning dramatically, then yes, it would send an alert, and if there was someone there to see that alert, yes, technically you could catch them at it.
Vandal-proof trees.
But I don't know. I call them vandal-proof. I wouldn't go that far. But I think the point is this is a showcase for the technology, and what we want to be able to do is now take that to its next generation and bring it into real life.
And when am I going to be able to go out and get these?
As a homeowner, probably not any time in the next 12 to 18 months, but we'll be looking at putting this into its first live usage when we relocate the garden to Mayfield Park in Manchester up in October.
And did you develop this?
Our company did. So I was the sponsor for it. So I had a brilliant team, one of which is that chap was right there. Over there, Steve Smith. He's the person who did all the technology to connect the sensors up to the computer system.
Right.
So I've had a brilliant team of technologists, and what's been really interesting about this is we've taken, gardeners, scientists, AI specialists, design specialists, and furniture designers, and we've put them all together, and this is what they've created, and I think it's a thing of beauty.
Yeah.
And it's even things like that pavilion, those panels, those white panels you see are actually grown.
Yeah,
so
I'm
they're
gonna,
mycelium panels.
Chat to Tom about those because I think they are fantastic. So is the AI bit, the trees health bit that I find fascinating, and the building, and the really standout features of this garden. Quite groundbreaking.
Yeah, and what we're really excited about, and I'm personally excited about, because I'll be helping to take this forward into its next iteration, is there's just huge potential for this. So if you think about, take it to its next level. I'm in a big urban developed landscape, you know, like let's say an industrial park, and I have lots of sprinkler systems set up, and at a certain time every night they tick in and they go. It doesn't matter if it's raining, doesn't matter if it's just rain, they go on. But if you actually had the trees talking to a sensor in the sprinkler to say, I need to be watered, or you had the sprinklers sensing that the ground is wet enough, it doesn't have to turn the sprinklers on. Then all of a sudden you start saving water and you start driving more sustainability. So there's huge potential for the tech, and we're really excited about it.
I think it's great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Right, I'm with Tom Massey. You were the brains behind the design and lots of the factors in here.
Yeah, me, Jayan, a co-designer, and Sebastian Cox is the fabricator of the pavilion.
Yeah, I had a long chat with Sebastian. That's fascinating. So you're looking relieved, you're looking happy, you're just about to be judged. They're trotting up the avenue, they're going to be here in about half an hour.
Yeah.
Have you any problems with this, or are you totally happy with everything?
I think we're pretty happy, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
it's-
surprised. I certainly would be if I were you. So we've talked about the trees,
Yes.
but the building that
Yeah.
Sebastian grew. So how did you, well, just explain how Sebastian made this building with the mycelium.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting you said Sebastian grew, which I think
Yeah.
people would be quite surprised that you could grow a building.
Yes.
So it's the structural frame is made from ash. So ash felled due to ash dieback.
Yeah.
So all across the UK, ash trees are having to be felled because they suffer from this disease. Which
And the timber is still structurally sound.
Yes,
yes,
it's
for
sound
building.
and it's beautiful as well. You get really interesting grain and marking through the timber.
Yes.
So externally we've used sustainably sourced oak, and then ash internally and in areas where it's not so open to the elements.
Yes.
But the really interesting part about the building is the mycelium panels. So they are waste wood pulp, which is inoculated with mycelium spores.
And is it willow, goat willow, wood
Goat
pulp
willow and some of the ash as well.
and some of the
paving.
ash,
Yeah.
yes.
So mushroom spores.
Yes.
And then that colonizes the material, creates a stable, it basically glues it together. It's like a natural glue, bonds it into these panels so that you use a mold to create the shapes. And then once you take them out of the mold, you
Because
air
they
dry
stop
them.
it, and the air drying stops the mycelium progressing any further.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you have a rigid structure. Now, he makes these amazing lampshades, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he says he's had ones that last for 20 years. And I said to him, how long do you think this will be outside? And he reckoned 2 years, perhaps?
Yeah, we've covered the external faces with a bio-resin, so a plant-based resin, just to give it a bit more durability.
You wouldn't use something like PVA on it?
I suppose
think
you
that
could,
would be,
yeah.
But
so-
that, if you put PVA on it,
yeah,
that would
that's-
really protect it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there is similar product. So
Yes.
just to give it a bit more weatherproofing. But the idea is that actually the durability is not as long as something like plastic, but with plastic the problem is that it doesn't break down and it pollutes the environment. You know, forever chemicals are
yeah.
a big problem.
Yes.
So using materials that do biodegrade, that you can compost at the end of their life, that actually, you know, as it starts to degrade, you just start growing new panels. They're carbon negative because you're locking the carbon into the panel, very low energy to produce. So it's showing that you can be maybe more creative, use nature to your benefit, and have buildings that are more sustainable.
And Sebastian grows it in a kitchen, is that right, in the bottom of in the basement of an old post office in Margate?
Yeah,
It sounds really, you know, you expect a building like that to come out of some
A factory.
Yeah,
or
or
something.
something.
No, it's
It's
very
quite funny.
lo-fi, and
Yeah.
what we're exploring with this garden is the mix of handcraft and you know, artisan skill with cutting edge technology. So we tried to create this tension between the two and a balance that shows that, you know, it can create quite an interesting dynamic, having cutting edge technology, handcrafted materials, nature-based solutions, and really biodiverse planting all in one space.
I think horticulture has a lot of cutting edge technology in it, doesn't it? In many systems. People don't realise that. They think we're just a load of hip gardeners.
Yeah.
But actually, it's a fantastic bond between the two areas, technology and horticulture. Yeah. And I think it's going to save many problems in the future. But just tell us a bit about your star plants.
Star plants.
So
this actually is a very nice Sambucus Niagara milk chocolate. So
really
nice.
A new one? I haven't
seen
it before.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it before either. But
so it's not as brash as the very dark purple.
Yeah,
Sambucus.
which we have got as well.
Yes.
But I quite like them together. Then we've got
that's not as dark as it normally is it? It's a nice sort of paler dark.
Yeah, and it's going a bit green at the tips. This tree here, this is Huvania dulcis in the middle. So it has a very...
What is its name? I don't know that tree. What is it?
Huvania dulcis.
Right.
And
it's
it has
hardy?
hardy, and it has a raisin-like fruit. So it's called Chinese raisin tree. Very interesting shape.
Why haven't I heard of it? Is it difficult in some way?
It's just quite unusual. We've got quite a few fairly unusual trees. The Kesnia fargesii, the shrub blue bean shrub, if you know that.
I know that one, but normally I think of a shrub, if it's unusual, it's either really difficult to propagate or it's got some certain needs that most people can't do.
Yeah.
So I just wonder why.
It would probably be full, you know, it'd be hardy down to maybe -5 or -10.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And with global warming,
And in London, I mean, the weather we've had here, it's, you know, it's been...
Loving
it. Yeah, but it hasn't rained for 3-4 weeks probably.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's quite worrying, you know, for the future. So makes sense of using technology to monitor soil moisture, to, you know, to understand what's happening with trees so we can water efficiently as and when needed.
Your pollarded willow is lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, really characterful.
Where did you find that?
That was from Horticultural Nursery in Hampshire.
Mark Straver.
Yeah, Mark Straver.
Brilliant. No, I think you've done a fabulous job. Good luck.
You.
This is really going to get people thinking.
Thank you.
And it might well change horticulture.
Oh, well, let's see.
Good luck.
Thank you.
You're looking more relieved than I saw you a few days ago. Yeah. It's a stressful business, isn't it?
It can be, Bonnie, yeah.
What do you mean it can be? It always is.
It is full
However
on,
much you plan it, whatever you do, the weather, something doesn't happen, something's different, you just don't know. But you've pulled it together and it's looking really good.
Yeah.
Tell us again, in case people didn't see the other video, about the garden, the Red Cross, how you made all these pots yourself.
Yeah.
With the plywood thing.
Yeah, this was we had a metal fabricated mould made for these ones.
Oh, you did. You didn't do it for ply like you did for me.
No. We had 5 individual moulds made, so we could repeat and repeat. It had to be exactly the same, you see.
I see.
So it had to be a bit more precise.
Because they all butt up together.
Yeah.
So you did it all on CAD, the design?
Yeah.
And it all fitted. You didn't make a muck up.
No. We were flying through for a long time, looking at the model and living in that world for a long time. And,
yes. Yeah.
You know, in theory, then that should work. And
so you've got a platform up on the top with steps.
Yeah,
going up.
There are 3 ways into the garden.
Yes.
You can take this centre route, which will take you over to the seating area at the back, and travel out, exit on the left.
And the seats are those seats?
Yeah.
You've done them in your same
with a
concrete
little
mix with coir?
Yeah.
Yes.
And the table in the middle.
Right.
And then you can travel through the Alpines. And the idea is that it's to slow you down and make you think about every step as you would if you were on a hillside. But the important thing is to slow down and appreciate these delicate, tiny alpine plants.
I see.
And it also brings, with these tall columns, it actually brings the alpine up to eye level.
Up to eye. It's
you
always
can really
lovely
get to appreciate it.
looking at things at eye level, isn't it? And have you done the slabs in your same mix?
Everything here,
Really?
all done in it.
So how long did it not that rock, that's real.
Apart from the rock,
The
yeah,
rock.
the rocks
So
are real.
how
yeah.
long did it take you to construct, make the pots, not put the garden together, but make all this? And it was just you?
Myself and my colleague, yeah. So I
two of
designed
you.
the mould, and I made the big water one, and I made a couple of these, and then my a lad that works with me kind of took it over, and he was at it every day, pouring every day, since 1st of January.
And where's
Right
it
up
all?
until the last, like April, end of April.
So it's been a long haul.
Yeah.
Long haul.
Yeah.
And where will it all go to after?
It's going to the Maudsley Hospital in South London.
That will be
yeah,
nice. That
yeah.
will be really nice.
But yeah, the inspirations come from the Red Cross are founded in Switzerland, and so there's the Alpine link.
Yes. I'd never realised.
There's lots of stories weaving through it. You know, these are all resilient plants. They live in difficult environment, but of course, as the Red Cross do, they work in difficult situations. But out of those difficult situations come these very beautiful little plants.
Tell me, what does all the money? Red Cross is international, worldwide.
Yeah.
And what exactly do they do?
Gosh, this is for the British Red Cross, and I think they're trying to promote their work in the UK. I think people traditionally think about their work they do all over the world in disaster situations.
Yes, that's what I associate with mainly, but you do see Red Cross tents.
But if there's a flood, for example, they're the first there.
Yeah.
Just to support people after the emergency services have left. When everybody's gone, the Red Cross are still there, staying around.
And they're mainly medics, am I right?
Not just medics, it might even be something as simple as being there to offer a cup of tea.
Oh, right.
And really just support people through that transition, I guess, from disaster, where maybe they've had a flood, and they're just trying to work out, you know, how to move forwards. The Red Cross can just sit there and support them.
Yeah, and having that expertise and knowing what to do in those extraordinary situations is invaluable. Wonderful, thank you very much. I think it's lovely. I've hoped you've enjoyed that quick tour of some of the Chelsea gardens. Tune in next week and you'll see some more highlights from Chelsea.